G'day and welcome back for more of the jiggly train that could, but really probably shouldn't. This thing, it actually looks worse now than it did last week. It looks so bad. That shake is just, it's completely untenable. There's no way we can use this. If I was playing without recording this, I would totally just deal with it. The shake doesn't actually bother me. If I was playing with someone like Capac, I know it doesn't bother him. Neither of us get particularly motion sick at all. So it doesn't worry me. But I am recording this, and there are people who get motion sick, and I do care whether they get motion sick. I don't want to be the reason that they get sick. And even I would probably get to the end of the building of the rail and just be like, why? Why did I put up with that? I shouldn't have put up with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run inside and I'm going to jump into my simulation world so that I can do some rapid iterations of tests on this. Because, yeah, the testing this in survival is all well and good, but I am definitely going to blow stuff up. So there are tests that I want to do that I am definitely not going to do in survival, because I know that they will cause explosions. So let's begin the testing. Normally for my test worlds, I do use a separate world. I don't use my actual save, but for this particular purpose, I need to use my actual save because I need to have this work in my actual save. The first test I want to do is this. I'm going to copy the whole train. I'm going to see if pasting it fixes the issue. Now, one of the cool things about this train is that I can actually just paste and drop it. And it works. It's okay with that. Now, you can see we have still lots and lots of jiggle. The thing that I've noticed with the jiggle on this train is that it is very much not isolated to that cockpit. It's just that the cockpit is the worst. The whole carriage, if we stand down here and put this in full screen effectively, you can see the whole carriage shakes. This carriage also shakes. They are all shaking an awful lot. And it almost looks like the wheels are moving, which makes me wonder if it is something to do with the wheels. So now that we've got a copy, I can test out a bunch of things related to that. In fact, I might blueprint this thing. That'll make it a lot easier. The first thing I want to test is if removing the cockpit actually fixes the problem. So let's do that. The answer is... poop. That's not the outcome I wanted. Oh. Oh. Sad face. That sucks. Ah. Okay. So we do have a possible solution from the outset. Well, I'm not happy about that. Nuts. Okay, so cockpit removal is an option. Great. The second thing I want to test is something that people have told me about a few times, which I think I might have run into in the Assertive Acquisitions save. It is that the subgrid wheel control script likes to have wheels on the main grid. So let's add wheels on its main grid, which I think is the grid that has the programmable block. Let's see if it complains now. If we recompile. Found wheels on main grid. To enable handbrake. No, evil. To enable handbrake, use the P key. No, no. Is this why someone told me to do this? I think this might be. I don't want to press P. Unable to park. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So that's not made any difference. Cool. Let's pop that off. Because I don't want that on there anyway. I'm actually going to turn this off. So that's off. Let's check that all the wheels have no overrides. I mean, the side wheels are actually off, so they're not the problem. Propulsion overrides are all at 0. I can make sure of that by just going a little bit of override and then back to 0. Still lots of jiggle. Parking brakes on, still lots of jiggle. So the wheels, they're not the problem. It's the cockpit, like we popped it off, it's the issue. So let's start playing around with some different share inertia tensor settings, because this is where things get spicy. So if I think about where we've got shared inertia tensor settings that might have an impact here, given that we know that removing the cockpit fixes the problem, I'm inclined to not spend too much time messing around with share inertia tensor on the bogies or even on the hitch, because I have it currently on some of the bogies and off on some of the bogies apparently. Yep, on and off on some. And then on the hitch, we've got it on and on, so I'll turn it off, and it doesn't really make much difference. The jiggle is still there. So let's take a look up this end. What I've got set up here is shared inertia tensor here, and I think on everything. All the way up to this one. Yep. Everything has shared inertia tensor. Watch what happens as I start turning this off. In fact, let's have a bit of fun. Let's turn it off on all of it at once, because I think I named these. They all have cab in the name. So if I turn share inertia tensor off, does the carriage stop jiggling? No. Well, actually, it's more rocking than jiggling. No, it's kind of just transmitting the forces from there. But then for the fun bit, let's turn it back on for all of them. So if we turn it back on, we get kicked up into the air a little bit. Oops. Yeah, that happens. Reload the sim. So that's why we don't undo share inertia tensor on all of them and suddenly redo it on all of them either. Start by removing it on the pistons. Removing it on the pistons does get rid of a lot of that jiggle. Can I turn it back on all of them at once? Yes, I can. Shared inertia tensor, I don't think is where the answer lies. There are a number of options here that I've got, like, you can turn this one on and off. It makes sort of a little bit of difference there. What I'd normally do if this was on a base would maybe actually have this one off as well. What I tend to see when I'm messing with the share inertia tensor is we move from a tight jiggle to a more lazy wobble. Neither is good. In fact, the wobble is probably worse for some things than others, than the jiggle would be. And obviously we need it, because if I turn it off on everything, it all just drops. Some of the other suggestions, if we have a look, there were a lot. You guys came up with so many different suggestions, and I am going to look through as many of them as I can to try and see if there were any other ideas. But one of the ideas, and I know it's in here somewhere, but I cannot seem to find it, seems to have the answer. One of the ideas that was suggested in there that I cannot seem to find who suggested it. That's bugging me. I hope I find it. If I do, I'll put their name in the edit. But I think it's the answer. If we stand near here, you can hear something very loud just to our right, which is that all of these blocks are doing things. And I think therein lies the problem. So if we go to the cab and search for cab, no, not back, cab, this has all of the subgrids involved. What I've done is I've made sure that all of the hinges have braking torque, so when I do what I'm about to do, they don't move. So I'm going to select everything. The pistons, the hinges, the lot. I'm going to turn them off. Look at that. Look at that. It is perfectly still. What this makes me wonder is if there is a possibility for Keen to look at this and add some hysteresis, even just a tiny little bit, to hinges, rotors, and pistons so they don't keep trying to hit their mark if they're moved slightly off. Because would that be enough to get rid of the jiggle all the time? I don't know, but I would love to see if there's a way we can test it. Maybe a script can do that and we can prove to them that this works and that this would make our contraptions so much more capable. I don't know. I'd be interested to see if it could be a thing. The only jiggle I get now is from the driving, because the wheels are running on the track. I expect to have some jiggle while I'm driving, and it smooths out once I get up to speed. What I need to do now is have a control to turn on and off everything as I move it. So basically, I remove this from the settings because it doesn't work for me anyway. I go to this, I create a group, cab, moving blocks. So, turn them on, spin myself around, ready and set, turn them off. I can use it. I'm trying to think of a way to enable like an event controller or something to do this, but it seems like there are going to be too many situations where I need to re-enable it, do something, turn it off. I would sort of have to have an event controller for each particular location this goes to, and that just seems like way too much work. But yeah, here we are. This works. Look at it. I can use my whole thing. It just works. It's just good. Which means I can leave the sim. And I can go and do this in the real thing because it's as simple as just turning some blocks off. I can't believe the fix was right there if I just listened. All I had to do was listen. But because I've used sneaky sounds to turn down the noise of the pistons, it doesn't bother me as much when they're constantly working. Like it used to with all my cranes. And that... Basically, I made a mod, Sneaky Sounds, which was the equivalent of taping over the check engine light for this particular problem. Which is just amazing. Just stable. Alright, let's get back to the real world. Ah, that's so good. Alright, now I get to do it again. So, I'm just trying to think if there are any better control setups than just having a toggle on and off. I do think a toggle on and off is probably the simplest. So let's set that up again. Haha. Oopsie. How bad is this going to be when I turn it back on? Might have forgotten to set the braking torque. A few other people said that they thought maybe the high torque range could be part of the problem. So I do think it's worth investigating that under certain circumstances. It could possibly be part of it. So if I reduce this down... In fact, let's grab all the hinges as well, because we can reduce it all together. We can see if this makes any difference at any point. Ah. Oh. Oh, how interesting. Oh. I did another test, but this isn't in the test world, and it's actually a better solution. Holy cow, I can't believe this is something I haven't done before. What the heck? I bet there are people in the comments who have suggested this to me in the past, and I just haven't taken note, and I apologize for that. But, look at that. 2 meganewtons of torque, and everything's just stable. I need to stop over-torquing stuff. Because I smash this up, we get jiggle. Bring it back down, and it settles. No wonder this is a bigger problem with cranes, because I always massively over-torque the cranes because they need to pick up such heavy loads. Can we... Never checked this. Hinge. We can adapt torque. Huh. Interesting. So I think what I need to do in the future for cranes, so that I can make them stable, And I hope that this will drive itself back into midline. Yep, good. Auto leveling. I hope what I can do in the future is use a control on my hopper. Like, if we grab a rotor, you can actually increase and decrease torque dynamically with controls. So I could grab onto an object, increase the torque until I'm able to pick it up. Then once I've picked it up, put it down, reset the torque to a specific value. I would love if... I wonder if there's a crane script out there that dynamically adjusts torque based on whether the hinges and rotors are actually achieving the desired angle change. Does seem like a fairly difficult? I don't know, it seems difficult to me, but it might not to people who are clever enough to write those things. Thing to do. But yeah, I have a perfectly stable cockpit, and I don't have to toggle things on and off. I can just use it. Look at how smooth this is. I can even tolerate watching it from the inside. Oh. Okay, that's a little bit of a problem. It does overshoot a little bit. Alright, let's adjust that strength just a touch. Let's go to 200... 2 million. So I need to find the sweet spot where it doesn't overshoot, but it also doesn't jiggle. That's pretty good. There's not much jiggle there. Bring it back. If I overshot a bit. Okay, let's increase it further. Actually, how high can I go before it starts jiggling is probably the better way to look at this. 3 has started to get some jiggle. Okay, so let's go to 750. That's pretty good. So I should probably, I think, go to the highest torque that you can go to where it doesn't jiggle. And it'll still overshoot the mark a little bit as it does. As it sets itself up, so it won't be perfectly stiff, which is, you kind of want it to be perfectly stiff. But at least once it does settle in, it is fine. The alternative option is to just have it so you can toggle it on and off, which I think is actually probably a worse outcome overall. I think toggling on and off is just one of those extra controls that just get annoying. So I think that's as good as we're gonna get. I'm perfectly happy with this. Yeah, if we look at it from here, we've got that hole. It's gonna hit the thing and then it's gonna boop, bounce past because there's a bit too much inertia there. Oh, actually, now I wonder, how does this handle if I reduce shared inertia tensor? Because that's part of the reason to be doing this, because there's effectively a lot more mass there. If I take that shared inertia tensor off, yeah, there's too much torque because it's so much less mass. So now we should be able to reduce that down further. Oh, I feel like I've just understood something that I could have understood years ago and would have made my life so much better. Like, this is a true revelation to me. I'm not sure what just blew up. That's never good. What did I just explode? Something's exploded and I don't know what. When I drop this down. Oh no. No, 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 no. Okay. That's interesting. There is going to be a significant sweet spot with this. With that shared inertia tensor off, I can't actually get this to stop jiggling. So I think I need to turn it back on. And turn up the strength of everything. Huh. Interesting. There's a part of me that wonders with this whether it's possible with some of those scripts to make it so... Because I know with Park, when the script gets to a specific point for a piston, it'll turn off the pistons because the pistons were super noisy. I wonder if Park can also do it for hinges and rotors too. Because then I could equip this with the park script and have it just toggle them on and off, and I wouldn't have to worry about fine-tuning the torque. But at least I do have a solution now. I can use this to build the track, which means I can now make the train pretty, or, you know, look interesting. Pretty is probably not the right term because this is a construction train. It's meant to just look interesting. Oh, happy, happy days. Let's get some water. So the next thing I wanted to approach with... the next thing I wanted to broach, which I did not last time, properly, at least, was why I went for this ridiculous mechanism for the connector. I didn't really talk about the reasoning why I didn't use other methods. So, one of the comments I got was that realistically with the train, there are sort of 3 or 4 positions I could have the connector. You can have it at the ends, you can have it at the sides, you can have it at the top or the bottom. The bottom is out because the track is occupying that space, so we can't put a connector underneath. That's just not an option. The top is out because I want this to have glass. I want this station to be predominantly glass over the roof, and I did not mention that. I don't think I mentioned that, but I do want it to be glass. I want this to be a nice light space where I can see the stars or I can see the sky when it's during the day. So that leaves me with the sides, and this connector setup that I built was intended to be, hopefully, permanent, even though I said it could be temporary. But the idea was that maybe this could be permanent. I suspect it still can't be, because I suspect it still won't work with the style that I was going for with the other thing. And then I might be better off having a folding mechanism that comes around to the back. Because that would be easier to build. Because then I could just have something that kind of folds up, folds down, folds up, folds down, folds up, folds down. Quite simple. So I might do that later, but this one's going to work for now. But I need to set up 2 timer blocks for it first. And the event controller that I wanted to do for it. The beauty of building this in small grid is I have plenty of places that I can put these timer blocks. So we need an event controller for when this gets unlocked. We need a timer block for setting it in motion to do one direction, and then a timer block to do the other direction as well. They should be safe to put here. Then the last thing we need is an action relay. So we need all of these. The action relay is going to be how the train tells the connector to come into position when I come back to the station, so that I can all get it locked and set up without having to actually jump out of the train and press buttons or anything. I will also have the button set up to do this. Now, I haven't set up any other action relays, but I think we're going to start at channel 10 for this one. Leave 1 for something more important. Okay, so for deployment, I want that hinge to go really slowly, that rotor to go fairly quickly, and that rotor to be slower. Alright, I think I can remember that. Set velocity of 1. Actually, I need to check which... I need to check if they're negative or positive. This is currently negative, which means it's positive, and this one is currently positive, which means it's negative. Okay. Trigger now. On that timer block. Let's see how wrong I got this. Nerds! Yeah, that's what I figured. Still a bit tight. I mean, obviously this block isn't going to be here either, so it might not matter, but I would like to get it more perfect than that. Hey, I think I got it. Took me a bit of fiddling to get the speeds right. I tried a bunch of different ones, but I think I'm pretty happy with this. Look at that. Could probably speed up the hinge a bit, but the rest of the mechanism seems to be working quite nicely. And I don't think it'll push those hinges for the welders away, which is great. Excellent. Okay. Yeah. Very happy. Cool. Alright, so we've got a connector functional to the station now, which means I'm hooked up to cargo if I need to, so I can weld up track. Next things I need to work on are finishing off the sort of... I really want to finish off the shaping around the train, which is pretty much just going to be trying to continue these sorts of supports down the length so that we've got that sort of shape going up and down over each bogie and having that feel more complete. And then running this catwalk to a particular spot that I think makes sense. I also need... Oopsie. Forgot that was how that attached. I also need to figure out how I want to get on board. Because obviously this station is not going to be suited to this train. Because this train sticks out beyond the bogies further than I intended for the main cargo train. I'm hoping that the main cargo train can sit neatly up against that. But that's too wide for this train. So eventually this train probably won't go through this station. I might need some sort of bypass if I ever needed to get it past it. Or something along those lines, maybe? Or I need some sort of platform deployment. No. Oh, man. No, I want the other train to fit on here, but this one won't. So I'm not sure what to do about the platform other than, for now, just put the half slabs in. Like this.
Energy
along the way.
low.
Which gets me close, but still have to jump to get across. So as you can see, even with this bit, there's still a sizable gap there. So I'm going to need to make it easier to run and jump from this side back to the platform. I might have just done a thing that was not... I got distracted. So I was just fiddling around with these barricades here and was reminded, again in the comments, of another design that I had witnessed during my scrapyard run by Austria of these sorts of things. And I think this is pretty similar to what he did. But basically, this is using black neon tubes for the railing. So perfectly black. And then using the correct corner pieces for what I needed. So the bits, the posts, I made sure they're the neon tube ends. So they look like they're mounted on the ground. Making sure I didn't use the straight ones that have the clips for hanging stuff off. Then where I have the clips, I've hung the plate, which has mostly hazard stripe. But, as many of you would be aware, hazard stripe does not align nicely between block types. So on the ends of it, I use the tiny little square of the... Come on, brain. What type is it? The... Battered. I knew it started with B. Which I think looks pretty tidy. Don't look too closely at the texture on the battered, because it has to be rotated because the block rotates, say, from that to that. But other than that, like at a distance, I think that looks pretty tidy. It certainly looks less repetitive than what I had before. It's got more depth to it. But the bit that I really wanted to show off and that I think makes this so much better than what I had before is this corner piece here. I didn't realize, because I'd just never tried it, you can actually get a really tidy corner out of the neon tubes like this. Yeah, ideally I'd probably want to have a post in the corner, but I think this still looks pretty good. One of the problems I often have with trying to make corners out of the style of fence that I did before is one of them needs to be on this block and one of them outside. And so to get that corner post in is a bit awkward, but I think this was a decent solution. I think this looks pretty good. I'm sure there are people who could be like, oh, I think this could be better, but I'm very happy with this for now. Which means I need to get back to what I was actually supposed to be doing, which was getting this to a point where I'm happy to use this train and I class it as finished. Ready to use. Just trying to think of any other functional blocks that I need to put on it. I don't think there are any. I definitely need to make it so I can walk along the whole thing, but other than that, I don't think there's much. Actually, thinking of functional blocks, one thing I am going to do, I'm going to grind this off. Just to make the script a little bit happier, I'm actually going to mount it on one of the bogies. Because if I mount it on a bogie, it's then happily connected to some wheels, and it'll hopefully stop complaining about that. Which should be an improvement. Now I wonder if I try and apply that brake now. No, it still messes with me. Bah. Fine. No park brake for me. So I've spent a bit of time trying to make this car look a bit more interesting while still getting it into a position where it's useful for one very specific task. So as this has come together, I've realized I probably could have done this train with a single carriage. And it would have made a lot of sense to do it that way, but it's kind of nice having something that's this big because it feels like it'll be a bit more stable. But there is another big advantage to this large flatbed car that's in front of me, which is that it gives me the ability to put a transport vehicle on here. Something that people keep bringing up, and I want them to keep bringing it up until I've actually built this thing, is that if I were to fall out of that cockpit and fall down to the ground when I am a long way from base, without a means to bring myself back up to the train, I'm dead. And I try not to die. I like not dying. It's nice. It's nice being able to, you know, say that it's this far in and I've died once. I'd like it. I like it to stay that way. So what I think I need to do is, yeah, just have a small drone that's got just enough lift to go down, pick me up, come back up. Perhaps an alternative would be to make this big, like, make it so that I could fit my welding ship on here, because then I could go and place the blocks for the pillars using the welding ship. I'm not sure. I'm thinking maybe not the welding ship that I've got downstairs, the one that I used to demonstrate the G menu building. Maybe something a little simpler, that's maybe just a single welder. Because it would be nice to be able to weld the towers as I place them, because although this can place those towers, it can't weld them, so it's not actually all that useful to me. And that wasn't something I was thinking about when I was thinking about, well, I can make the cockpit go down near the ground, that'll work, great. That'll do all the things I need it to do. No, it won't, because I still can't weld it. Obviously, the towers aren't going to need as much material going into them as the track itself, because the towers will not be being built with blast door blocks. So that should be okay. But yeah, I do need to make sure that I've got the ability to build and weld. So, welding ship. But I think having a little safety drone platform would also be a great idea. Some mini little thing, hopefully made with maybe Flatmos, because I haven't really used them much in this series because they didn't exist. And that'd be a good thing to work on maybe first before I do my Canary redesign. See what I can get away with, maybe just even have it as a remote control and then have a helm on it. It's basically just a hover chair or a hover standing desk. Hover helm. Go with something like that. So that's what I'm thinking of doing for this. But I'm pretty happy with how this has come together. The fences, I think, break up what is otherwise an extremely boxy design, but that's that's to be expected with this. Something I was a little less convinced by, and actually let's show it off a different way. If I drive this out from the station, you can have a look out here. If you look at this side, you can see how the batteries sit. I actually removed the blocks that were going to be covering those batteries because I thought they added some nice detail to the side, but also it just meant that I could keep the full width of my walkway in the bar windows. But on this side, I locked them in with some of those beam blocks, and I think it looks good there. Where I'm not sure about it is this bit at the end of the carriage. I haven't quite figured out what I want to do there. With the hitch mounted as high as it is, I think the hitch almost might be too high. I think the hitch might be better down here. Let me know what you guys think, those of you who understand how the physics of this work. I think with the rotor being at about this height, the hitch should be at about the same height as the pivot point on the bogies, maybe? I don't know. It feels really high up there, so I feel like it should be lower, and then I have my little deck to cross from one carriage to the other at a slightly higher position. Not sure. Not 100% sure on that. But yeah, I think this carriage, apart from filling in obviously the right side of it, has come together quite well. It's pretty simple, which it's a utility vehicle. I don't want to like make it too crazy, but I also do want it to have simplicity to it. I like the simplicity of this. I like the shape of it for now. This bit I haven't filled in just in case I decide to put some cargo or some tanks or whatever else in there, because I might decide I want to put something in there. Probably oxygen tanks, maybe. I don't know. But it is all working nicely now. Need to put a connector on the end of this and then have a way to walk around it so I can walk up onto here and walk down to the end, just in case I need to repair or replace anything. I was tempted to do this as stairs with half blocks, but I think having a slope is actually probably neater. And feels less weird because you don't get that juddering as you come up the stairs. Because you can make stairs in Space Engineers with these blocks. If you go from a full block to a half block to a full block to a half block, the engineer will just happily walk straight up that. Bouncy, but we'll do it. Something else I was really struggling with here, and I still am not convinced I've done the right thing, is the design of these bogies. I kind of want the bogies not to draw too much attention to themselves. I kind of just want them to recede in, which is why I did them all in these darker tones, and I've done the rest of the train in the white. I would like people's opinions on whether they think I should be doing more yellow on the train. Maybe some yellow in plate that goes along the side here. Maybe even doing something like this, where I do just this bit. Oops, painted the wrong bit. Something like that, just to add a bit more interest. And obviously, need to put a triangle plate in here. Why do I always scroll the wrong way through this list? Something like that. Just to break it up a bit more. Yeah, I think that is good. I think I'm going to do that. I won't continue it down below the graded catwalk height. The reason for that is that the graded catwalk is taking up the space where I would need to put that plate in. So I think it'd look stranger to put it down there than to not. So what I mean is, if I walk down here, if I were to paint those blocks below, I can't put that angled piece in to make the line flow through. So I'd prefer the line to just stop where it does. Now, I think when you do stuff like this, where you're using a panel to fill in a gap, you should also do the others if you have room for it. Because I think on the vertical edge, outside the slope, like where the line you're drawing changes angle, is the best place to have the edge. Because it's a space where your eye kind of loses it in that change of angle, compared to over here where... Actually, if I grind those off, you can still see the armor edges poking through. I think that's the other reason it hides the armor edges. But there are normal non-Space Engineers art reasons for doing it as well. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. That's got a bit more something to it. It's not as dull and white. Part of me wants to paint these in yellow, but every time I do that with blocks like that, I feel like it just does too much. Oh, actually, better idea. Batteries. Subtle. Yeah. Whoa, train, why did you just drive without me? That was weird. Concerning. It's done that a couple of times. I don't know why. While this is a shorter episode than usual, I feel like I have done a lot. Mainly because I've learnt something that I've been doing wrong for literally years. I have been doing something so wrong for so many years, and it is so good to know how to fix something that has been bugging me for that long. Oh, it feels so good. It feels amazing to finally understand one of the causes for the shake that I get on so many of the things that I build. Hopefully, my learning on that will help more than just me. Next time, going to be working on these lifter vehicles and going to be finishing off this car so that I can get to building this rail, because obviously can't really safely build the rail until I have the lifter vehicles and the welder vehicle. So there's all that and plenty more to come, and I will see you then.